Here with Heshy Freed of Frum Satire.net. Heshy, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
No idea.
Really?
No idea. I mean, there was a time that I wanted to be a professional mountain biker.
Yeah.
That was high school. But grade school, yeah, I went through the extreme sports. I wanted to be one of those guys, who standing on top of half pipes at the extreme games, drinking Mountain Dew, and getting all those really hot skater girls.
So you were born in 1981?
Yep.
And I was reading your Wikipedia entry, and I was immediately struck by something because my mother died of cancer when I was 4.5, and yours died when you were 6.
Yeah.
So, was she sick for a long time?
Apparently a year, and it's kind of one of those things that's a touchy subject. Yeah. I mean, it's probably not a touchy subject, but I view it as my dad was married for 7 years, and he got married when he was 41.
Right.
So, it's one of those things that I really don't talk about with him much, so I try and get information from other people.
Right.
It's just uncomfortable, so
Right.
she was sick for about a year. She died of breast cancer.
Yeah, my mother died of breast cancer too.
And
I think it's probably the most influential thing that ever happened to me in my early childhood.
they say that there's some sort of, in my case maybe, humor has come out of being, this big traumatic experience when I was a kid. I also, to couple that with having a name like Heshy in a modern Orthodox situation and having a terrible stuttering problem until I was 13, didn't help at all.
Right.
I was picked on, and in turn I had to, get attention in other ways, and then I would get kicked out of school, and then, this classic, kid who, diagnosed with, learning disabilities, and, all these sorts of things that, coupled up until, they sent me away to yeshiva, and that actually fixed the problem, unlike most people who sent away to yeshiva, and then they become, crazy, so, I don't know.
Why is the name Heshy a problem?
It's not a normal, I don't look like a Heshy, that's what someone said to me this weekend, but it's also like when you're growing up in a modern Orthodox situation, I wasn't from a really Frum family. I wasn't from a yeshivish or a Hasidish or a Haredi background. I'm from a regular, so not having a name like Josh or Ari or Avi it's a weird name. I remember in Camp Moshava, which is in the Poconos, a real B'nai Akiva, modern Orthodox, Zionistic camp, I totally got picked on for the name. I could have went by Steve, but it's just not what, that name's stuck. And only recently have I even started to introduce myself to non-Jews as Hesh. Hash? And I'm yeah, with an E. And they're Hash, bro, and I hang out with a lot of those type of people, so.
So what's the name on your birth certificate?
I'd prefer not to say, actually.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually one of the few things that's sacred still.
That's
yeah.
Fine. So why did you go with Heshy when you went to...
It was just what I was called by. So it's just one of those things, that's my name. That was my name, and only recently have I become really to embrace the name. Really, within probably the last... Ever since I started writing, really, have I begun, it's kind of unique, it's kind of cool, and it's true. It's it gives people this, people give me this once-over of, they think I'm an ex-chassid. That's really what happens. They're oh, you're one of them. You're off the derech. You're not... within our community anymore. And then they hear me talk, and they're he can't be one of them. What's, so it's almost it's good for me because it gets them curious about me. This weekend, multiple people were saying, you don't look like a Heshy. What's up with you? So that's, part of my persona is to get people interested, talk about what I do, and then,
So if you just say Heshy to Orthodox Jews, they think of someone ultra-Orthodox.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're over 60, in what case it's a Svi Hersh, or a Herschel, or a Heschel, or a Heshy. People always have that uncle named Heshy, but he's over 60. It's not such a common name for anyone, of a Haredi background. It's just not. It's like having the name Yaeli. The same thing.
Name Yoeli?
Yaeli. No one's named Yaeli, they're named Yoel, but not Yaeli. Yaeli's Yaeli, I don't know anyone named Yaeli without payas. Unless they're a tuna bagel. Then it's fine. You know what a tuna bagel is?
No.
A tuna bagel is a chassid that went off the derech, but he still, when he orders a tuna bagel, he pronounces it tuna bagel. And there's a whole sect of tuna bagels. You learn something new every day.
Wow. Wait, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Manhattan until I was 12.
Okay.
And I was shipped away and I never came back.
And what was your family's religious observance level?
Weird, but I mean, we considered ourselves Orthodox, but we were probably more like conservative because we kept a.
You're non-observant Orthodox, not fully observant.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, kind of. I mean, if you want to get into classifications, I mean, it's kind of tough to. I went to yeshiva my whole life, but we didn't eat kosher. We ate milk out and we watched TV on Shabbos. We used electricity. And we didn't always wear like head coverings, but I was in yeshiva at the same time. So, and my father encouraged Jewish learning and really into Gemara and really into this stuff, even though we weren't fully on the level of like mainstream Orthodoxy. But then again, Manhattan has a lower level of Orthodoxy. Manhattan's kind of weird like that. I mean, I knew plenty of kids who were Orthodox, but their parents, cooking and driving on Shabbos was totally okay. But they were still considered them. What you consider yourself, and there's a lot about what I write about, what you consider yourself isn't exactly who you are to the community at large. But some people want to consider themselves something because that's who they think they are. Are they that way? It depends who you ask.
Did you use the name Heshy with the Goyim too?
Not until I was a little older. I haven't started using that. I still, use my English name in a professional setting, but only recently, probably within the last 2 or 3 years, have I started using Heshy with everyone. I mean, my friends, in college was like I was like Jewish Steve. That was my English name or a variation of that. So, like, oh, Jewish Steve. That's like you're the flying Hebe because I was big into like trick biking. So.
You said professionally. What do you mean professionally? You said
like in a work setting, or I worked for the state of New York for a while, and in that setting, I would use an English name or on resumes, or for most jobs, anything like that.
Right.
So.
What did your father most want from you?
What did my father what?
Most want from you.
What did my father? He just, I mean, that's such a hard question to answer, but he just, he's old, so he's from a different generation. He just wants me to go and support myself. Nothing really extreme, The idea of college wasn't really something that was broached so much. The idea of really excelling in education wasn't really broached because he believed that anyone can make a really good living without even being educated, because he comes from a background of people making millions of dollars without ever graduating high school. So, but he's 71.
Huh.
Do people ask questions over here?
Yeah, sometimes.
I wish people knew about this. This is like I need. Maybe you could put this on my Facebook update.
I put it on your Facebook already.
But if I update the status, then it's like
Yeah,
whatever.
Well, when we turn it into videos and upload it to YouTube, then...
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you can, perfect.
There.
Awesome.
You got kicked out of a lot of schools, yeshivot, when you were a kid?
Yeah, elementary. I went to 4 different elementary schools.
And why did they kick you out?
Well, I'm not sure about the first one. The first one, I might have been pulled out. I started, and it's interesting, my elementary school period, because when my mom died, my father started going to shul more to say Kaddish, and he would drag us, and there'd be a lot of this, more religious induction into our lives. And as we, as a family, became more religious, my schooling became less religious. So it went like this. It was very weird. So I started out in Yeshiva Katana in Broyers, which is just very Haredi. Then I went to Yeshiva Katana of Manhattan, which is also pretty...
Where's Broyers and how do you spell it?
I think it's spelled Bruers, but I'm not... It's one of those things you kind of have to... It's a Yeki... it's part of the Washington Heights, like originally, like Washington Heights, like the, they have their minyan on Shabbos has a Hershey choir. They're very, like, exact, and you have to wear talis, and it's, like, very, like, and there I went till 2nd grade, then I was in Yeshiva Katana, Manhattan for a little while, which is also a black hat, local, like, Upper West Side kind of school, and then the bulk of my career was spent in Manhattan Day School, which is a co-ed Hebrew, Orthodox Hebrew day school, modern Orthodox. Very diverse, but, I still have friends from that school. And then in 7th grade, I know in that school I started out in special ed, I made it into mainstream, but I was never a good student, never participatory, always kind of, an outcast and hung out with like the bad kids and, doing things to get attention